What's up, guys? Devan Carroll here with Mr. Hayden Albert of Carolina Quality Buyers. Want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so appreciate you having me on. This is your first one, so glad I could be the pioneer here. And I've been in real estate for 4 years. Started in 2020 when it was crazy. Bought my first house in the end of 2019. I was transitioning out of the military around 2022. So
that's not the house you're still in, is it?
That's my primary residence. So we had locked in at 2.3, 2.1% interest rate. So I could sell everything and then just be a homeless vet and just live in my house and pay my mortgage. Like I have nothing to worry about. So we'll get into it later, but just risk as an investor, I at least can fall back on. I have a house.
Yes.
So got super lucky there, kept expenses low, transitioned out of the military as I was figuring out real estate. I got the bug when I got married. So we were moving from Seattle, Washington, back here where my wife was born and raised here in Charleston. We met back in 2014 and we just loved it here. Her family was here, mine was close by in North Carolina. And so when we got married in 2019, I saw how much a wedding venue cost.
Oh yeah.
So a wedding venue was $5,000 just for the venue in an off season, like on Sunday with like.
And this was here in Charleston.
Here in Charleston for like 4 hours, and then we had a bunch of deposits, and we still had to buy all the chair, all the stuff. So me, I always knew I was destined for something besides working for somebody else. I know that to my core, and so back then, 5 years ago, I felt it. I just didn't know how I was going to get to independence and be an entrepreneur. I knew I had the dream. I just felt it burning in me. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So I saw the opportunity of how would I build a wedding venue? Like I want to capitalize because I did the math. I was like, okay, what's $5,000 for like the weekends, for the summer, or like all year round? Like we booked it out 2 years in advance.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So and it was booked out. Yeah. And so I'm like, they're making like $500,000 minimum. Yeah. And they don't do anything because they just built it and left. There's nobody on, no overhead besides the literal structure. There's no people involved, If you didn't clean up, you lost your $2,000 security deposit.
Look at that. Yeah, that's crazy.
So I just was obsessed with learning about wedding venues. And so I bought every book, which was like 3 of them. And I read like all 3 of the wedding venue books. And then I realized that's just real estate. It's just real estate. There's other ways to acquire more easily properties. And so just kind of transitioned. I listened to every episode of the Bigger Pockets podcast. Just dove into that, and so just was a sponge. And a lot of people want to, they think about doing this business. They want an easy route, but I spent hours and months just diving in. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say I had a analysis paralysis, but I did do a lot of research, probably about 6 months of just learning while I was in the military. And I was still, I was a student at that time, so I was very much full-time, 12-hour days. We were on shift work, so that means I was working, 1 week I'd work days, 1 week I would work mid swings, and then I'd be up in midnight, all night. So that was
you didn't buy like a specific course or have a specific mentor to get you off your feet, right? You know the free resources, YouTube University, and big
100%. It's just, and that's something I think I would say to new people is you don't have to go my route. You can definitely cut the line. My advice for cutting the line would be go provide as much value as you can to the most experienced investor in the market. 100%. Just go work for free because you're going to work for, you're paying for your education with YouTube University and missed opportunities. In any type of deals that you mess up. If you mess up your first deal, that's going to cost you. Your education is expensive. It's not tuition, but it's the education cost, opportunity cost, and how long is it going to take you to figure it out. So my advice for anybody that's getting started is just plug in as fast as you can with the community, whoever's around you, and just give them as much value as you possibly can. Just hustle. And so I learned, I did it my own. I wouldn't say my ego got in the way, I just didn't know anything. There wasn't as much information out there 5 years ago as there is now, like especially with social media. You know, it was a big boom in 2020 and 2021 of just guru style content of wholesaling and just making money.
That's when it was crazy easy.
It was crazy easy.
Anybody could do it.
Anybody with a pulse could make money in real estate. And so, it grew over that time. And I grew when there was less information, but still more than, back then. So I decided that the Burr method, which is what Bigger Pockets was pushing. They weren't pushing necessarily wholesaling and all these.
Burr was like 99% of what they were pushing. And it was everyone telling their Burr story and their Burr story.
Yeah, it was just Burr's over and Burr, so for anybody that doesn't know, is BRRR, which is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, which is just a strategy that I used and a lot of investors used. To this day, and mainly a few years ago, it was more popular because essentially you're buying a house. I'll just tell you my story. So I decided that instead of wedding venues, I was going to do residential.
Yeah.
So I found I didn't know that all real estate agents weren't created equal. I thought any real estate, and this is such a...
If you have your license,
I was like, okay, so I used a family friend, in which is like the biggest mistake. Everybody just picks their random family friend that they think is like the agent. Well, she had sold probably like 5 houses a year or some shit. She wasn't good by any means. She was fine.
Spending money.
Whatever. She wasn't just a once a year, but she was an investor focused agent. Yeah. So I used
Did she even know what Burr was? Did she know?
No. So I always felt like I was educating her. So when I said, in my mind, I thought, I'll just tell her what I want and she'll be able to send me a list of everything. It'll be easy to find a deal. So I was like, I wanted to get an investment property and I want, a duplex or something. And so, she was sending me stuff and she sent me stuff in Ladson, which was like one side of a duplex. Because in Ladson, a lot of those deals, if you know wholesaling, I'm sure you've seen them, where there's 2 units side by side that you could buy. You could own both houses, but they've been separated to TMS numbers. And so she showed me those things and I'm like, they're selling in low 100s back 4 years ago. But I was like running the numbers. I was like, I just don't see how it works, and I was like, do you have a good contractor to give us a quote? Like I didn't know how much. I didn't know any of this information. I'm just hoping that it works. And so luckily I had a great job. I was very bankable in the Navy. I was a nuclear mechanic, so I was getting paid. I was one of the highest paid enlisted people that you can be in the Navy, and it's one of the best jobs I could have, and it paid well. I made good money. It was W-2 money, but I was pretty well off, so that was very bankable. So I was like, okay, I'll be able to get a loan on a property. So I was just getting
to serve our country, which we appreciate.
Thank you. So I was getting a conventional loan, and we finally landed on one. She was calling me. I was driving to work or driving back from work, and she said, hey, this duplex just dropped, and this was March of 2020. So everybody remembers COVID-19, so it was right when stuff was starting to kind of fall. Nobody knew anything, right?
Stores were still open.
Yeah, nobody knew.
Because it went north to south, so the north was maybe...
And so I turn around and this just hits market. Gentleman he was a smoker, very heavy smoker, so he had a lot of lung problems. And so fairly educated guy, but it was owner-occupied, a duplex. And it was... okay shape. It was a newer vinyl siding type home, but it needs some work. It was definitely a Burr. And I go in and he's like covering out. Like, sorry, I'm sick. And so his motivation was he didn't want all of this traffic. He kind of wanted to cut a deal. I talked with him. We had some pretty good banter back and forth, and we ended up getting under contract. So
you and this agent, correct?
Yeah. So the agent brings me the deal. It hits market. I get it under contract quick. I had my financing set up, and we lock it up, and then we had it at 330 for a almost 4,500 square foot duplex. It was a 3-bed on one side and a 4-3 on the other. It was a ginormous 3-story. It had a 3-car garage underneath it. It was
where in Ladson?
That was in Ladson on Miles Jamison Road.
Okay.
So that was my biggest.
Still on it?
No. I'll tell you.
You're getting there.
Yeah, so I get into that one and we're doing inspection, right? And it comes up on the inspection kind of a week before closing is the appraisal is getting weird, and they're like, the back unit is one less bedroom and one less bathroom than was listed.
Yeah.
So it was listed incorrectly. So my agent's like, well, since they listed it incorrectly, you can technically do this. Like they lied, whatever, or the disclosure was wrong. And so instead of terminating, we said, well, how much is it going to cost to add a bed and a bath to make it worth what you're saying it's worth?
He said, yeah.
And so we ended up doing a reduction on the 305.
Damn.
So
was it a simple small office that they count as a bedroom without a closet and AC or something, or maybe just blatantly just incorrect?
Just incorrect.
Yeah.
We walked through and there was the floor plan was what it was. It had been there since they built it.
Yeah.
They just lied, or they hadn't been there, didn't count. I don't know. Whoever the agent was didn't do their job.
Cost them.
Yeah. And so
they're out at 305.
Cost them $30,000 at a reduction. I had been doing so much research and telling everybody in my family what I was doing at the time that I ended up borrowing my dad's life insurance policy. So he passed away. So that was one of my big whys. I'm like, why do what I do? So he had passed away in 2019, right after we got married. So I was like, well, I was able to borrow that and then put that as like a down payment.
Wow.
And use that for the BRRRR.
That makes this a lot sweeter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so closed on that, and then I just immediately started renovating. Renovated the
Yourself or you hire a contractor?
I hired a contractor.
Yeah. You're pretty involved though.
I was very much involved.
Yeah.
I was changing out the plastic plates on all the outlet covers. I was changing out the light fixtures.
Like, I have a screwdriver, I can do this.
Just doing everything I knew how to do. Just,
Yeah.
Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. I had heard everybody talk about it, and so I was very much there all the time.
Yeah.
Anytime I could be, I spent so much time on that first project. I did the landscaping. I was weed whacking it. I was painting the fence. I was, everything I could do.
When's the last time you did that?
I will go on site maybe once for a flip now.
Isn't that awesome? That was only, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so we ended up keeping that. I kept that for 2 years. Cycled in and out of tenants. I self-managed.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend self-managing it when you start for a couple, maybe a couple tenants, maybe one property, just so you know what it's like.
Just so you can kind of justify that it is worth paying a property management company 10%.
Yes, 100%. So I learned all of that. I realized I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate managing people and their expectations. So, one time hot water goes out and I offer them to come to my house and take a shower, I'm like, you can come, like, I'm so sorry, and I asked my wife and she's like, sure. They didn't take us up on it, but that's like,
that's
what we're
good
dealing
landlord,
with.
Yeah.
That's what I was dealing with.
You can come use my shower.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
So to wrap up that story, I renovated, and then 2 years later, I realized it's time to make an exit out of it. It just made sense because it was something that felt heavy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I had bought some more properties at that point. I was doing more. I was officially kind of transiting out of that point. And I was like, this property is always causing issues.
Yeah.
The appreciation's crazy right now. I wanted to time the market. So I said, screw it. There's an identical one next door that sold for a really high price, like $500.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try and sell mine.
Yeah.
I was like, mine's better. So I list it for like $6 something. It ends up selling for $550.
Wow. So what were you all in reno-wise?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because it's like I didn't know to track it the right. I just came out of my bank account.
But it worked.
I had one bank account. I could probably go back if I really have tried to find out exactly. But I walked away with a check, I think, for multiple 6 figures.
Awesome.
Because I got my down payment back.
Yeah.
Got all the equity. I probably made shy of $100,000 in profit, pure net. But there was a kind of proof of concept of.
That's crazy, yeah. And I mean that good leads to that was my other question is what was that one deal that really said, holy crap, real estate investing is not that hard and it is life changing. So kind of going off of that, so you did that while you were still in the Navy full time, right?
Yep.
So you go.
I always had a safety net.
Yeah, just said, oh my God, this just happened, and then I know obviously you did your 10 years. So was that like right at the 10-year mark and then that's when you made the jump full time? Or
it timed up with, military lingo as I did my first re-enlistment. And so I re-enlisted a couple years in for 6 years.
Yeah.
And so my 6 years was coming up and I decided that I wasn't going to re-enlist. So that's put me at 9 and some change. So I do round up a little bit, but I was in 9 and some change years, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this for another 6.
Yeah.
That's going to put me 30.
Yeah.
I would just now be getting out. Now that made me sick to my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I'm not doing that. Decided that I was just going to figure it out somehow with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So to your question, like what deal kind of made me realize, it was a combination of a few burrs. I did 2 burrs back to back. Still in.
That's awesome.
Um,
Working crazy schedules,
Mhm.
like that's.
yeah.
And for the audience, it's just like there's no excuses. Working for the military full time, 100%.
All I had was a cell phone.
Nights, everything. That's crazy.
All I had was a cell phone.
Yeah.
I bought my first 5 houses with a cell phone in the Notes app. I would scan papers with my Notes app. If you don't know, you can scan them and turn it into a PDF. And so I did that. I did 3 renovations all with my iPhone.
That's hysterical.
I didn't even have a computer, working full time in the Navy, swing shift and stuff. And so I was able to do it, figure it out. It was definitely stressful and hard and challenging, but I knew it's what I wanted. So I did 3 burrs and realized, okay, I ran out of money. I straight up just ran out of money. Like every deal, it weren't perfect burrs, as people kind of know.
What were you cash flow on these a month?
I was
And were those other 2 duplexes too, or they were single family?
So the first one was the duplex in Ladson. Second one was in Pepper Hill Plantation, North Charleston. I still have that one.
Nice.
My favorite rental. Still the same
tenant since?
Same tenant.
That's awesome.
The whole time.
Have they showed at your house or?
She's amazing. No. She was a divorcee, had bad credit. I gave her a chance, and she's renovated the whole house. She added all.
Wow.
She built the deck out back. She put on new.
Are you funding that or it's just?
She did it, so I wouldn't recommend that you lie.
As a tenant, don't do that.
Yeah. So she basically made it her own, and she's never been a problem.
That's awesome.
She's always been the sweetest, nicest. So we've done a few rent bumps throughout the years, but she's still on a good rent. Beautiful house. She's taking care of it, and I make right now my bank account for that account is 18 grand. So I've never taken a draw.
Yeah.
So the cash flow over a few years, the mortgage is $860.
Jeez.
So the mortgage on that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, $860.
Yeah.
And so I'm making $1,800.
That doesn't even talk about the appreciation you've gotten. I mean,
I'll tell you, so I owe $130.
Yeah.
Okay, so my loan is for $130. I bought it for $93,000.
92,000, yeah.
I put $50 into it. I owe $130 right now. It's worth $325.
That's awesome.
Right? So, we do get lucky sometimes where appreciation works in our favor, but yes, it was only a 2-year appreciation. I got lucky with 2020, but if you just play that over 5 years, even in a down market, you're still going to come up eventually.
I mean, even just from a cash flow perspective, that's an amazing deal, let alone the appreciation, because so many investors, they want to buy for cash flow rather than appreciation.
And that's what I would say is cash flow is a defensive measure.
Mm-hmm.
So I never took draws. That's why I have this at 18 grand, because I never took any money out of there. It's not a lot of money, but it's nice to look back. I spend maybe 1 or 2 hours a year in thought on that property, and it's because I'm filing my taxes.
You just keep that in a standard checking account or 5%?
It's just sitting in a standard. Each property has their own account. It's not enough money to really do anything with.
Yeah.
So it just sits in that property's account. Anything that goes in comes out. I know it's for that property. It's in my personal name because I just didn't put stuff in LLCs until I actually decided this was my pivot point, and that kind of brings me to what I decided.
How the wholesalers skip Tris and call you on it?
Yeah. I've gotten a few local people around here.
Funny.
Somebody called me actually Monday on it.
That's funny.
I was almost going to hire her. She was a great VA. So whoever called me on that property, your VA is awesome. She was super nice, very well spoken. Usually you can't even understand them. So, anyways, I ran out of money. All my properties, I had 4 rentals. They were all not perfect, so I had $30,000-$40,000 of cash in each one. Because I just couldn't get the best deals I possibly could. I just bought was on market.
Yeah.
So I decided I need to build a deal acquisitions company.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't necessarily know about wholesaling. I just knew I needed to find good deals because I'm looking at, I think I bought a deal from Ford Smith, great dude, doing business with him to this day, and that's where I got that $92,000 one in North Charleston from him. And I was like, I won, and I saw his assignment fee.
Yeah.
I was like, he made 25 grand just by finding the deal.
Exactly.
And so I was like, I'm going to build a way to find deals. So started to one of my buddies in the Navy, we just were sat every single day. We were on the same crew, and we're like, let's build a company. So we started an LLC together. Nobody really knows who he is because I bought him out. Just because he stayed in, and he moved to a different state, and he just wasn't as invested as I was. I had about $200,000 of my own capital in the business of just like recycling it, like spending money on expenses, like marketing, all that. Really, I had a ton of money out in the streets on the business, and he had like $10,000 out, and he was freaking out about like stuff. I was like, dude, you don't even have any skin in the game. You moved away. I'm doing all of my success is based on my relationships locally in this market, and he's like sitting about. I still like the dude. I'm just saying, this is the reality of it. Is he was sitting behind the computer doing like coding on like making our CRM better. I'm like, dude, I am so much more valuable. I have every relationship, all the money.
Hell, you can do it on your iPhone. You don't need the robust CRM.
I came with the skill set. I had the skills, the relationships, and the money. He had like the computer side of it, and we're 50-50 on this. The Carolina Quality Buyers, C. And so I was just, and he was complaining a lot, so I decided I'm just going to buy him out. So bought him out. It was 100% mine, and I just ran with it.
And now this was 20, what year were we talking? 21, 22?
End of 22.
22.
Is when I started the LLC. Didn't do anything until 23 officially, and so we had a bunch of expenses in 22, no profit to 23. And so I was still, as I transitioned out, I started my window company. So I got approached from my partner to do a startup on a window and door company. So I was doing that side venture, from my story of starting an actual like retail business from scratch. And so I did that, and I negotiated a salary from my partner for a year. So I negotiated a $75,000 or $70,000, I don't remember, per year salary to get it started.
Nice.
Right, and so this was still COVID, we're still kind of wrapping up, and then if you were in construction, the supply shortages, the supply chain was just absolutely destroyed, and so I was starting a window company when we couldn't even get windows, so I'm sitting here trying to build this out, I'm getting a salary, I'm working my hardest, and I'm proud of the job I did, but it was a struggle, so I was doing that full time, and I did not have the time to do my real estate passion. Real estate was my passion, but I was still building something else for somebody else. Even though I was an owner in it, I just felt like I was building this for them.
And the main reason I'm taking that on was to essentially vertically integrate. Okay, I can get windows at cost now by doing this and going this route. Or
that was a pro at the time. It was a means to get out of the Navy because I only
had that base.
Because I only had rentals. I only had, like I said, $18,000 in cash flow over 4 years. It's not enough to live off of.
No.
So I was like, well, I don't have any cash flow to live off of. I don't have any type of actual income from my real estate ventures. So I needed something. I didn't want to go work for a Google data center. So that was my other job. Is my background in nuclear engineering would translate to the cooling systems in like Google data centers.
I got buddies working on it.
So, but I almost sort of like throw up writing my resume. You're sitting there and you're like, being military, you kind of have everything laid out for you. You have a very strict schedule. It's a different thing to transition to civilian life and work for somebody else and just be up in the air. I don't know if I'm gonna get a paycheck. I don't know if I'm gonna get hired. It's a tough thing for us veterans, and so I knew I didn't want to do that. So when that opportunity for the window and door company presented itself with somebody I knew, I felt good about it.
Like and trusted.
And so I did that. I think I did right by it. Started up a pretty successful window company over 2 years.
Icon window and door, by the way.
Icon window and door. And then we were just kind of sitting there. Over those couple years, I was building 2023, early, I believe 2024, I was building that window company, and I was also building my real estate company on the side. So I had hired people at that point. So now I have my own capital in this company I'm hiring. I don't actually know how to do the business. I think I can
close the wholesaling.
I haven't been in the trenches. I haven't made the calls. I haven't actually gone on all the. I've done the. I was out there. I walked a ton of houses. I was hustling, but I still hadn't built out a wholesaling company myself because I was just trying to throw money at it. and I didn't know where to put the money or how to use it or how to leverage people. So I met somebody and basically essentially just hired him with no experience, and I said, let's do this. And so he was upstairs in the window company office, just working, trying to call people and figure it out. And he did pretty good, you know, but he just didn't really have much direction. I didn't know how to direct them. And so it wasn't necessarily in his blood to be an entrepreneur and be like a super big problem solver. So he struggled a little bit, and we made some money, but we were essentially breaking even over like a 1.5 year period.
Working super hard.
Yeah, working really hard.
User calls a day.
Hours, work. Money. I was throwing money at trainings. We went to events and
close the deal, reinvest it all into a better, more pay source.
Pay off whatever expenses you had, debt you had. And so I just was like, shit. And so my partners came to me in the window company and they said, dude, you're passionate real estate. We could see like the writing's on the wall. You know, you're here, but you're going through the motions. You know, like you're not growing it anymore. And it was I looked at like into myself a little bit like, yes, but now I have to really make the leap, you know, because I had the net of I still getting paid with the window company, but now I have to officially like make it on my own with my own company. So I was like, all right, you know, I had a little bit of money saved up from some deals, and
that was your burning the boats moment.
Yeah, burn the boats, and just decided that I'm done. You know, I have to do this. I have to. There's no other way. And so sold out of my interest in the company, which was one of the best things I ever did. I felt good about what I was able to accomplish, but I needed out. It wasn't what I wanted to do. The partners, I'm still partners with one of the guys, great dude, but they were wanting basically draws like on profit. And I was like, yo, we're negative. I was like, we're losing money, you know, because you guys don't want to put money in. So then we don't want to put money in marketing, but you want me to make money. And it was just a tough spot to be in to where they basically were, I felt like if I were to put my full passion into it, I would essentially be handing them a paycheck for doing nothing because they did nothing. I did it all. And I just like didn't feel good about that. I just felt like if I'm going to pour my entire passion, I'm damn good when I focus in. As like you're making my own, I'm acting on my passions. But I felt like I was building somebody else's dream. It's not for me.
100%.
So when I sold out of that, it just felt so much better. It was like the world was lifted off my shoulders. And I was like, I'm free and go and do whatever I need.
It is scary. And I remember when I remember when I made my job.
I love talking through that with you too. Is when you transitioned out on your own. I mean, you were built for it, and you basically built, you know, your partner's business for them. And in a way, you know, like you were so good at what you did that their success was based on like you and like how you built it out and how good you were at it. So when you walked away, I was like, "Wow, you got run." You know, like
it's also like cool too that like so many people think that like it has to be like it would be whenever that happens, it would be an ugly exit or like just it would be an ugly situation where like you're still great friends with Icon and I'm still great friends with Nate. You know, still get dinner on a monthly basis and bounce ideas off each other, collaborate on new marketing strategies and everything. So
it's those hard conversations. You'd rather have that conversation and just look at each other and say, "You're right. This is not for both of us," and separate then instead of making it sour, you know, and then sabotaging yourself.
Exactly.
You know? So I stepped away, and at that point, it was I think 23, and we were still essentially breaking even. We weren't really good yet, and so I just didn't have the right people in the right seats, and I was able to focus, and I was really good at networking. You know, so I was looking up at the whiteboard one day, and I'm like, half of the deals are for me, and I'm most of my time is spent managing my team, spending money on my team, working on my team, and I'm doing this for 1 or 2 hours a day, finding my own deals. Like I was out there slinging deals.
And I'm like, what was my cost of marketing on that? What was my cost per contract on that?
So we're spending, you were spending, you know, $20 to $30,000 a month in just overhead. You know, I thought I could spend my way out of it. I was okay, let me hire 3 more acquisitions people. Let's put them on a base.
It's a numbers game.
I was like, let me skip trace all of Charleston. So skip traced all of Charleston was just, I called every single homeowner. You know, I had VAs, I had 6 virtual assistants calling, I had a lead manager, I had 3 acquisitions people, I had a dispositions person. All of these people are expenses, an office, every software you could pay for it. I was like, oh, this will solve my problem. And it didn't. And so we're sitting there and I'm looking like stuff is negative. We're breaking even if that, and the stuff was tense. People were kind of like not really getting deals. And I just decided that's it. You know, this was the kind of the moment that pivoted my business is my current acquisitions guy. He was managing hotels. He was a stud at what.
Yeah, you and Hunter, were you guys friends from growing up, right?
So,
Both from
yeah, exactly. So Hunter and I, we went to school together.
Okay.
So when I moved to North Carolina, last name is Aldridge, mine's Albert. So I sat in front of him in class and was like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, I was a new kid. And we were just kind of like acquaintances all throughout high school, and we parted ways, and then we reconnected. We went to my mom was actually moving down, and we were touring a model home, and we see him there. I was like, oh my God, like, what's up, man?
No way.
And so my mom and him were kind of both building their house down here at the same time. There's a huge coincidence. And like, what are the odds that we walk into the model home at the same time? So,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. And so I just was chatting with him, and I said, dude, like, you're the guy. Because he was just a talker. He is a salesman at heart.
Oh, yeah.
He used to work at Subway in high school, and my mom would always come back and be like, man, I love Hunter. He's so nice to talk to. Because he would talk to anybody. And he just puts everybody in a good mood. Nicest dude ever.
100%.
Very loud. You know, sometimes I have to pry myself away from conversations with him, but I love him to death, you know. So at that point, he reaches out to me. Actually, about a year prior, I said, as soon as I have $100,000, because he wanted $100,000 salary, because that's what he was making.
He was taking a big leap, yeah.
Yeah, so he was making six figures. He'd make about 120 in managing hotels, but he was struggling with like management. Like he was in charge of a lot of stuff.
That's not
on call. You know, when we got that cold snap a couple years ago, the water lines burst, and he's sending me videos around Christmas because he's there on site like midnight. You know,
Yeah.
So he is mentally drained. Doesn't feel like that's what he's supposed to be doing in his life. And I was like, as soon as I have $100,000 in the bank, I'll hire you. You know, and he said, okay. Because I didn't want to put him in that situation. I was like, I don't want to hire you without the money to pay you. And
That's
then
much different when you're on keys taking, you're taking a risk.
I'm taking, I don't want that on my conscience of him not being able, of me prying him away from his stable, you know, thing that he's built for the last 10, 15 years and taking this risk with his new family. He got married. And so I never made that call. He calls me and says, I don't care what you pay me. And so I still have my old team. And then he calls me and says, I don't care what you pay me. I need to do this. I don't care. Like, I'll just come work for free. I don't care. And I said, come on. You know, so he started, I put him on a base salary less than my other people.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting there, and he's first, 30, 60, 90 days is right when the wholesaling laws come out in Charleston. So he started, his starting week was, hey man, wholesaling is illegal now. So I just hired you to be a wholesaler. Now it's illegal. Yeah. And so he's telling his wife, he tells me the story now, but he's like, dude, I'm nervous. I don't know. Like, Hayden says it's going to be okay, but I don't know if we can wholesale now. Like, he hired me for this job, and it's illegal. And so I ended up firing everybody but him. So he was making the least amount out of everybody. I fired everybody but him. I realized his worth. He restructures everything. He's like, oh, this is messed up. This is broken. We don't need this. What are we doing with this? And he just basically peeled back the layers of like what the business was. And it was shit. It was terrible. And he doesn't get a deal for the first, few months because that's how it goes as an acquisitions person. You have to build the pipeline. These things, like, you don't hop on a call and immediately get your first deal. So he builds out 3 new marketing channels, was crushing it. We shut off all the shitty marketing that wasn't, 10x.
So was that cold call, SMS?
Got rid of SMS, got rid of cold call, focused on paid marketing.
All inbound.
And then once those started to hit, started to get a lot better. And in the fourth quarter, the same year he got hired, he made $55,000 in like 2-3 months. Yeah. In commissions. Yeah. So he got a Rolex.
Yeah, you gifted him a Rolex too.
So which was insane because I set that goal and not think anybody would ever did it. Yeah. Because I'm looking at my old team like, this is a tough task to accomplish. 100%. The way I wrote it was, you had to make, I think it was 200 or 250, and it might have been $250,000
Revenue.
in 3 months
Yeah.
in net assignment fees.
I guess because I do a tiered structure, so mine it's quarterly basis, and it's 0 to 90 is anything under 90 grand is their set commission. Anything between 90 and 140 is a point and a half up.
Okay.
Anything above that 140 is 2 points up off their original commission. But then I don't have anything over that, so I should do a Rolex or a trip or something.
Oh,
like
you
that.
should see my top end stuff because he's
Yeah.
going to hit it. He's going to get a free car. That's the next tier.
Oh no!
Yeah, like, that's the next one.
It's got to be. It's got to be 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be.
Yeah, so-
He's a truck guy anyway. You just get a Raptor or something.
So he crushes it. He gets $290,000 in Q4 of 24
Wow.
in assignments, which is
That
mind-boggling.
quick of a turnaround is nuts.
You know, because he started midway through.
And that's
24.
straight assignments, or is that projected with flips?
No,
development?
that's straight assignments.
That's awesome.
There might have been 1 or 2 where it was a flip.
Yeah.
You know, like we had bought a flip, and then I didn't pay him until it exited.
Yeah.
So like,
But,
it wasn't, I think it was speculative. It was
I
like,
count that as my till like you're saying close it in the bank.
Like in the bank, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's huge. I don't know any guys that perform like that.
And that quickly, you know,
Yeah.
and so he's done nothing but keep the pedal down since
Yeah.
then. You know, it's been another, 3 months in there, and he's just been, he changed my whole business,
Yeah.
on the wholesaling deal acquisition company side of it. So I've just been loving that. And the next tier to talk about this, I do the Rolex is like $290. Then I do personal best bonuses. So if they're breaking records, they get like
Okay,
a
cool.
big one. So he hit that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So he's got a couple bonuses, and then anything over a certain amount, like they get, and then they have what do I call it? If he hires anybody, he has like a premium on anybody that's underneath him.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah.
so you do that. And so the next thing is a vehicle for him. So we'll see
Wow.
if he can hit that. But
Yeah.
we've since added a land portion of our business
Cool.
where we
Southern
entitle
Acres with Colruyth.
That's the name of it,
Yeah.
correct? It's Southern Acres Land and Homes. We will buy land, we'll land flip, we will subdivide and sell paper lots, we'll develop it, we'll do horizontal. You know, we have a 48 unit going up in Lexington. We're closing in 2.5 hours on
Look at that.
13 acres locally, like right
Yeah.
off of Charleston Southern. So like 13 acres
That's
of
awesome.
neighborhoods circling it. And
Do
it's
you know what we're gonna do there yet?
It'll be a neighborhood. It'll
Yeah.
be,
And is that an installment too?
that's an installment.
Wow. Is it one of Lexington installment?
It is an installment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess we can go into that. So
Yeah, I want to hear about
So
that.
essentially, I have my Carolina Quality Buyers, which is a deal acquisitions company
Yep.
through and through. You know, we'll buy real estate, we'll hold on to it, we'll add rentals, we'll find deals. It's built to find deals. Where Southern Acres is built to develop land, improve
Yep.
land, and profit.
Now you're targeting land from in Carolina Quality Buyers, correct?
So my partner in Southern Acres does have a acquisitions piece of his company.
That's right, yes.
But Hunter's so good, but what he does is we put him on the best leads. So he has, some low level talent, medium level talent. It's a good talent. They're not cold callers by any means. They're pretty talented, but they still don't live here. They can't go shake hands with these people. Like Hunter will go make a relationship with somebody, and he will get a deal done that nobody else could ever get done.
Yeah.
Like unless you're just top tier, like he's
Yeah.
good. So we put him on those leads, and so we'll say, here's this piece of land we want. Here's this crazy seller that we've been trying to work on forever, and so he'll close them. So he closes the high level deals, and then Southern Acres pays him his commission,
Which is awesome.
how it would normally be. And so we've
No, on an installment though, how are you paying a commission out on that? How are you determining?
he's hanging on. He
Yeah,
sees the
you
upside.
give him the option to
He's-
stay. Hey, you could be paid out at the end of the project.
He wants
or-
to build the pipeline. He sees the upside. He sees the vision. He's bought in. So he's making money wholesaling houses and doing quick stuff in Carolina Quality Buyers. And
Yeah.
he's like, okay, if I can get the profit on neighborhoods, it's done.
Yeah.
Like the one in Lexington, we're looking at $500,000 to $1 million in profit.
Yeah.
And only having to go on site, never. We don't have to
Yeah.
go on site. We can literally just do everything virtually and pencil it out, sell it to a developer, make multiple six figures. And that's just one deal. And so now we have 10 of those. We have 10 of those right now. We own 4 or 5 of them. We own 5 deals that we closed on. And so the numbers on that just start to get a little crazy. And so we're like looking at our time.
Yeah.
As I'm growing, as an entrepreneur, I see, okay, I can wholesale $20,000 contracts on houses
That's your fast cash.
I'm never going to get rid of that. You know, like Hunter can hire some people. We can build it out to where it'll still be choosing, but the land stuff started to get really exciting on the return on your time.
Yeah.
You know, like what is my time worth? How do I get to $5 million?
And you have to delegate majority of the process because you're not an engineer, you're not an architect, you're not, you're not a surveyor, you're not an arborist. All these people you need, you have to delegate it, and you have margin to do so.
Yeah, and so there's so much that goes into it, and Hunter looked at what the potential payoffs could be on those, and so he's like, okay, I'll hold on to the end, I'll get my 10%, and he's tickled to death about it. You know, like we have a few that he's closed. He's waiting to get paid on, and we're gonna look pretty good on them. So
on my big deals like that, like long projects, I give my guys the option. So like, what I do is like pre-contract, shopping around, see what I would earn, like get a legit offer as a wholesale deal. Say, hey, okay, I feel like my one in near some creek, it was like, all right, we can make 150K, assignment, boom, done, easy. Or, Jack, you can go ahead and wait till the project's done, determine what profit would be, and then you get your 10% of that. He took the money up front. He took the 15 grand up front, but had he waited, he probably would have got close to 70 or 80. That's crazy, because I'm wondering, like, what does that look like for you as a business owner to like pay those up front? Because you have to factor in your costs. Yeah. Likely, so you got to be cash. I'm liquid enough to do that, That's good. So, but had I not been, it would have had the option to. Yeah. So, there's just an interesting, way to approach it. Is they can decide to stay on or make a little bit. And so that's what we did as well. I would do that for any rental I get. Mm-hmm. So I would buy a property and keep it. I would say, what could we assign this for? If you get a good deal, I don't want you to feel bad for getting a deal that I own now and add to my portfolio. I want you to get paid for it. I don't want you to throw those leads out. I still want to buy these investment properties. So I told them we can soft pitch it to people and see what, exactly like you said, see where it would get fetched for an assignment and I'll pay that. So that's what we've been doing. But honestly, I haven't really been buying much with rates, which just doesn't make sense. It's just a season. Yeah. It's a season of how do you capitalize off of the season that we're in real estate? 2021 was quick, wholesale, flip, just over and fast as you can. Just lock anything up. By the time you sold it, it will appreciate. Exactly. You can't do that now. You have to have a real business. Mm-hmm. And so I created a real business, and everybody else is gone. Yeah. Like, what are you seeing? More revenue with way less employees and way less overhead. 100%. What does that tell you? 100%. There's more deals out there now than there ever has been. Yeah, I think just the new wholesaling regulations has helped. I mean, I've noticed it already. Especially in South Carolina, because all like the virtual groups that I'm a part of, South Carolina was one of the first markets that 90% of these people chose, and they all removed themselves, doubled down in Georgia, doubled down in Carolina. Can't compete with us. Mm-hmm. There's no way somebody from out of state can compete with you, can compete with me, can compete with the 3 other big names here. Mm-hmm. There's like 5 studs in this market, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And there's still plenty to go around. Plenty to go around. It's like and we do deals together. All of us do deals together. I've done deals with every wholesaler here, with every wholesaler. Yeah. I'm doing one with you soon. We've worked side by side on some stuff before. Yeah. I'm doing one. Me and Ford own some stuff together. Just everybody is just such a good community, and it's very niche here. I love that. Yeah. I was looking at other markets. I just love what we have here. I love the people here, and it's been great to be a part. Yeah. So I tell a lot of those guys about our investor network here, like the meetups and something. You guys have 60 to 70 people at your meetups. What the heck? You guys do subgroups, all this stuff. It's not comparable to any other market. No. I look at even Greenville. Greenville's stuck up. Yeah, a lot of them hate each other. Like I know Savannah, down in Savannah, there's a lot of beef in those groups. Yeah. A lot of beef. They can't have meetups because there's too much beef. Yeah, and we're all go givers, and everybody helps each other. And we all. That's the thing is now I can call if I'm fighting with somebody else on a contract, or I know there's somebody else on the other line. Yeah, I call the 5 people. I'm like, hey man, you working on this one? And then some of the times it is me. Yeah. Like I showed up to an appointment once and Hunter was there. I was like, oh, what's up, dude? Yeah. I was like, I'm supposed to be at 2:00. He's like, oh, I'm at 1:30. I was like, well, I'm early. He's like, oh, just come on, go. Yeah. And so and then what we do is we play it off each other. So we don't deal our cards to the seller. This is a pro tip for anybody that's selfish and doesn't have an abundance mindset is work with each other. So
what we'll do is we'll say, okay, don't tell the seller that we know about each other.
Yeah.
I'll anchor at this price. You lock it up this price, you JV it. We keep the price low. We both make more money.
Exactly.
Because all we would do is we could pay.
We would bid each other up, and then we would maybe
Make
either
10
increase the
grand.
deal or maybe make 5-10 grand.
Yeah, so you might make 10 grand after we
Then
finish all that.
you're angry.
And now we can both make 20.
Exactly.
So it just makes more sense. And everybody just loves working with each other, and there's no hard feelings here. Many bad apples see themselves out really quickly.
They do.
So
100%.
But to your point with installments and land, and you had brought that up, I wanted to mention it. So what I love about that strategy is the installment method has been the kind of the pivot when the laws changed.
Yep.
Is the lawmakers said you cannot wholesale and you cannot double close, you cannot market something you don't own, period.
Yep.
So that got rid of our business. Our business is out the window. We can't move those deals without marketing them.
Yep.
So we either have to buy them all
Gain equitable interest.
or resell them with our own money. And so most people, that's when everybody left. Because I don't have cash to buy 10 deals at once.
Yep.
So when the law came out, I bought all 10 deals. So I had all 10, everything that was in my pipeline I bought. So I was able to do that, but nobody else was, besides like the couple people that are still around. And so with the installment, we decided to onboard it, figure out what it's really all about, realized it's essentially like a owner finance deal that doesn't care if there's a debt on the property. It doesn't matter. You essentially purchase the property in installments. It's super self-explanatory. You do your first installment and you pull title on it. You verify title's clean. Find out all the if there's any liens or anything going on with the property.
And you're always doing monthly installments, right? Not quarterly or.
You can do whatever you want.
I know you can.
So for land, I do two. I do the first and the last.
Yeah.
Usually, I usually do. So what we'll do is for this one up in Lexington, we were sitting there with this contract, and your contract is only worth the paper it's printed on. Because in this business, I've closed deals, and then people will call me and be like, "Hey man, have you seen this deal?" I'm like, "Bro, I already sold it."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, I have it under contract," and I'm like, "No, you
Someone's
don't."
messing with you.
I was like, "That seller got 6 people under contract."
Yeah.
I said, "I closed on it already. Like, sorry, man. Like,
Yeah.
we could have helped you, but it's too late." Like,
Yeah.
so your paper is only worth like what's he do now? He has to sue.
Yeah.
So I'm in 5 lawsuits as the plaintiff, meaning I'm suing people for stuff that they did that was shady and bad, as however in this business in general, and it sucks. I hate it. In hindsight, I never would have done that, but that's the only way that you can force somebody to sell is to do a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And so
I just signed a legal bonding agreement.
So when you're doing land, there's so much money at stake. You have to be a big player. Like you either have to be backed by somebody big that can take these risks, or you're not in the space. So engineering on these projects is like $100,000, and so you think you're spending $100,000 in money that you can't get debt on, that is held by due diligence on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So you do all this money, you find out the property's worth it or it's not worth it, and then the seller changes their mind.
Yeah.
And they won't come to closing, So you're set to make $500,000, but you can't get the seller to come to closing. Now you got to enter into a 1 or 2 year legal agreement.
Yeah.
Fuck that. So what we did with the installments is it actually gives you way more power as the buyer. So you go on title with the seller. So you do the first closing within like 10 days.
Yep.
So you get them under contract, say I'll give you $1,000.
Has to be at least the minimum 500.
It's 500 to 1,000. I just do 1,000
Yeah.
or whatever. We have it. So I go ahead and do the first closing, pull title. We both go to closing. We sign. That seller signed is done. They've closed.
And it's nice that it actually goes to them. It's not that it's just EMD in an escrow account. It actually goes to them. It is
They
an
get
actual transaction. Yeah. That's good.
Get the money. So that's what happened is we had a 13-page land development contract up in Lexington. The seller was getting flaky, like they always do. He's like, well, I want this. I'm going on a trip. I want to close before I leave. I was like, we don't have, for this one, it was $550,000. So we don't have $550,000, and we don't want to raise that.
The only reason he wants to close before his trip is so he has some spending money. So
Exactly.
that's the reason.
What
do you need for the trip?
What's the number? $35,000. It was $35,000 was a number for him.
Yeah.
And we said, that's a big enough risk. We already had soft approvals from a lot of the jurisdictions, so we felt good enough about it to risk it. So we closed on it with $35,000. He got his money, and now he's signed this closing documents. He signed a deed. He sold his property. He's still entitled until we send him the last installment.
Yeah.
but now we can feel good about spending $100,000 in engineering and due diligence
100%.
because they can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we're leveraging that on every land deal now.
Yeah, I know. With these installments, I assume you're not putting any EMD down, right?
There's no EMD, it's just you.
Because that installment, you paying installments means that you obviously have skin in the game and you're going to go ahead for it.
So now I have equitable interest, which is how the law is written. You can't sell a property without equitable interest. So now that you're on title, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So now we have a single family house in Columbia, but we have on market. Mm-hmm. We listed it on market with an agent.
Well, that's how the installment method was written, was to continue to wholesale.
So now I can wholesale on market, and I can sign all the docs, and there's nothing nobody can do.
Little to no competition.
So now I have the best buyers pool. I don't have to pay money for.
You're not paying $50,000 a year for investment.
Like me. I could scale out of different states, but for South Carolina, I can put everything on the MLS and not even lose any sleep about it because it's the law. You're allowed to do it. There's no gray area. You're allowed to do this. So I put that shit right on the market and we get the maximum amount. So we can thin down our margins a little bit. We can do more deals. We can buy at a higher percentage basis, but it's really opening everything up. Yeah. So I love
for the installments on the land. So obviously, like you said, right, you're not getting debt on engineering plans or just site plans, which is pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. Are you raising private funds for that? Are you self-funding that? What is that looking like? As well as like that deal, for example, the $35,000 down payment. Mm-hmm.
A lot of that speculative stuff is self-funded.
Yeah.
So that $35K is self-funded through 7 Acres, mm-hmm. and then if something is a for sure deal, we'll put private money on it. So once we get for instance, we have 18 acres.
And it's all phases too, right? It's not like you need the whole nut up front.
Yeah, so, for the one in Somerville, we have 18 acres right off the highway, the line location. Development cost is like $200,000-$300,000, and so we had got a couple private money people to lend on it, but we didn't do that until we had it subdivided. Yeah. We subdivided it and we have it recorded with the county, so there's nothing that can stop us now. Yeah. So we know. So now I know I can sell the lots for $200 each. Yeah. I can sell the house. The people that are putting down on it, they're protected because it's a no-lose situation.
So then, question about that: people that put debt, normally they go to first lien position. I assume in this position they do go to first lien position. But does the original seller, who's still on the deed or who's still on the title with you, do they have to be a part of that promissory note, or that could just be between you?
Okay, so I'll clarify. So I'm usually not putting that type of debt until we actually do the closing on it.
Okay,
so the
installment's fulfilled and you're the sole owner.
The installment allows us to get it approved in the county.
Yeah.
Right, so now I've paid for the survey. I've paid $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 at this point before we do the first closing. Mm-hmm. So I've done the wetland survey, I've done the soil testing, we've done the survey, we've talked to all out of pocket, right? So we have to have capital for that. And so we do all that, and then we find out, we submit it, we wait a couple weeks until they say, hey, this is approved or it's not. Mm-hmm. And so we get it approved. Once it's approved, okay, close on it. Then we can come in with some of our lenders. We built the program to be able to fund these deals specifically. And so they say, okay, we'll lend on it. We'll lend on X amount of development costs. So we'll get straight up hard money on development deals. And then I'll just use private money at that point to fill in any gaps.
That makes sense.
So then I just build a capital stack. We're closing on $250,000 tomorrow in private money, maybe Monday. So I had to raise that, and so we went out there, source that, finish that deal up. But that deal's set to net on a bad day, $600.
What's the term on that note?
6 months, because there's nothing stopping us now. Yeah. We've already got it subdivided. All we have to do is put the gravel on the road we've already cut in, bury the electric cable, and that's it. Yeah. We're done. We can go to market. Nice. So I can sell these today.
So you're selling those for you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Anything else you want to chat about?
Yeah, I guess kind of like an entrepreneurial mindset in general. I think you mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah.
What is it?
Your one quote, number one, is there one specific person that you follow? Or, for me, it was always phases. I was on this podcast, and I was on this mentor, then this guru's, and this guru. You have one guy that you still kind of rely on, or have you kind of removed yourself from social media now that you are on social media? Are you still consuming, or you're more?
I consume a lot, and that's a bad trait of mine in general is I spend a lot of time consuming. I know people say that you should be producing more than consuming on social media, but that's one of my vices. But I do follow right now, you know, like I got to the point with Bigger Pockets, for instance, where you grow out of it. It's like, okay, like I know everything there is to know about all of these podcasts at this point. So my favorite podcasts were the self-development, where they actually brought in self-development people on the podcast, but then they got away with it. They did away with it, and then I stopped listening. Yeah. Because I don't need to know how to bird. I'm not doing birds. Exactly. I'm better than they are at it. Yeah. So then I shifted to Wholesale Hotline. Yeah, Brent Daniels. With Brent Daniels. I think he's the best with building a wholesale company. I think he's a stud. He understands, like, he doesn't make it sound easy because it's not fucking easy.
But he simplifies it and just talk to people.
And people overcomplicate
so true.
it. Like I did. Yeah. I overcomplicated it for 2 years. Yeah. The podcast he said yesterday was call 1,000 people before you hire anybody. I called 2. So I didn't really know how to. I borrowed somebody else's script. Yeah. You know, so that cost me 2 years of my time. Yeah. And so he's really grounded. I don't like Pace. What's the other guy? He's in Jamaica building a house.
Jerry Norton.
Jerry Norton. I think he's good people
Puerto Rico. He just moved.
Yeah, Puerto Rico. Okay, so he's good people. I think he's got somewhat of a different. He pushes a lot of just buying everything instead of. But Brent still says, "Yo, like wholesale this stuff. Yeah. Like, you should be." And I think that is one of the best things that Brent says is like you should be moving as quickly as you can. Like, why would you flip something for $40K when you can wholesale for $30? Get out of the deal. Yeah, simplify it, make more money faster.
That's the weirdest thing about Brent. He's been doing it for so long, and he's still just it's just wholesale. Like everybody, I mean, I'd say 90% of people start with wholesale. Wholesale's middle school, flipping is high school, development is college, and then graduate school is becoming the bank, becoming the bank.
Yeah. And so I think it's good to have everything. I think I'm never going to get rid of wholesaling.
You got your active cash, midterm cash, and your long-term cash.
However you fast, however you to stack it, and so whatever deal comes across my plate, I can convert. Whether it's sending it to a partner, I don't buy sub 2 anymore. I think it's a terrible strategy. So I'll send those to people that want to buy sub 2s. Yeah. You know? And maybe I'll say just pay me whatever you want.
It's cool too. Like Chris Reed had a really cool analogy about it. Well, not even an analogy, just a story. He was like, he is kind of where I get that trajectory from, like the middle school, high school, college. And what he said, he was like, I've been developing, I've kind of been a private money lender, I've been all this, but at the end of the day, I still have my wholesale pricing. So all my development deals, I'm paying wholesale pricing on those deals, which is just increasing my margins tremendously. He said, about 3 years ago, me and my wife decided that, we had a rough year. We did well, but we were just bogged down. We were tired. We decided that we just wanted to travel the whole year. So I decided that I was going to wholesale every single deal that year. And we still did over $2 million just wholesaling every deal. It's like crazy. And he traveled the whole country the entire year and just wholesaled everything. Could be wherever he wanted, was working 2-3 hours a day, built a system out of it. And then the next year I got back into development. I was bored. It was like a little mini retirement type of thing. So
I look at every deal as how I make what's the best exit for my time. Yeah. My focus now, I just had a new baby, is my return on my time. What is my time worth? And it's worth a fuck lot.
Yeah, it is.
I'm like, I don't.
Have you done that? Have you ever done one of those time audits where you determine your dollar per hour?
You're really good at data and stuff. I don't do like all of that, but I do. I'm constantly in the back of my mind to say, why am I writing this contract? Why am I sending these emails? Why don't I have a TC? Why don't I hired a project manager? I hired everybody now to where they're in good positions, the business is in a good position, and my time is so much.
The best hire for a real estate investor is a lady a female in specific, that has been a paralegal at a successful real estate law firm for more than 4 years. Pay her $65,000 a year. Best thing I'll ever do.
Yeah, I think my first hire was an executive assistant. That's similar, they do a lot of the work. That person will do a lot of tasks that will align, but leveraging your time is the best thing you can do. That's your first hires. Figure out how to make money, build revenue first, and then figure out how do I get the better return on my time every single month. It's like just better. And so looking at, okay, I want to wholesale, I want to land, I want to develop, I want to become the bank. Now my time is 0 and I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars in my interest, once you get to that point. And just keeping everything in your tool belt too, being able
100%.
being able to do everything if you need to.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that,
exactly.
And I think you asked me at the beginning, we'll wrap up, is what is my quote for, like, my one quote?
Just entrepreneurship, because it's tough. There's some late nights, sleepless nights.
This is what I think has given me the biggest leg up in my business is give, ask. It's just four words. You give and you give and you give to everybody around you. Don't ask for anything until you need to and until you think it's the right time. So one example, I on the Facebook pages, I'm all over those things. I'm always providing free stuff. So I'll give out all my contracts. I'll give out training, advice. I'm always providing value.
You're giving me a lot of contracts.
I give as much as I possibly can. And human nature is that the person wants to get back to you.
Yeah.
They don't know it. They don't think about it, but they do. They remember you. So I gave out a joint venture contract online, and this guy somehow gets connected with me on social media or however it was. He calls me and we're chatting. Turns out he was the lead engineer that developed Carolina Park in all of Mount Pleasant.
Wow.
So he's backed by billionaires.
Yeah.
So he's backed by billionaires. He's the lead dude running this project.
Was that Lennar project or?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was.
But regardless, absolute stud.
Yeah.
And he's like, I saw you give it a JV contract for free, and I just wanted to connect, and now he's gonna start running our projects, and he's got his own funding, so he's sitting here. And he's got funding behind him. He's got a big backing, and he's knows
older lad with a ton of experience.
And so we underwrote a piece of land, and he sends us this 10-page document. He's like, "Here's all of Lennar's costs."
Wow.
And so
how crazy was that comparison?
It was just so crazy to see why I could have been stingy. I could have said, "Hey man, if you give me this, I'll give this," or "Can you pay me on this?" No, me and Ford are doing a deal where I never even made her sign any agreement. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but I found him a deal. And I said, "Dude, just take care of me. Pay me what you think it's worth. I don't care, because I know he'll provide value back to me." So me and you do that all the time. I asked you for your KPI tracker, you gave it. Here we are. Now, we're better because of each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Instead of nickel and diamond and wanting to charge people for stuff or hold stuff close to the chest. Yeah. That's the best thing about this market. And that's the best. That quote has allowed me to grow my network to where I feel like I have one of the best real estate agents on my team. I feel like I have the best acquisitions guy that I could ever have. I feel like I have one of the best land dudes. I just surrounded myself with those people because I provide as much, if not more, value to them.
Yeah.
Just because I can connect them to everybody and vice versa, and then it just opens up so many more doors. Yeah. Me and you, we're not 1 + 1 = 2. Me and you are 1 + 1 = 10.
Yeah.
When you combine.
100%.
So that was what I'll leave everybody with, is just provide value to everybody around you, doesn't matter who it is.
100%. And I mean, I'm just the Go-Giver. You mentioned that book before. That's one of my favorite books still to this day. And what comes around goes around. And I just think at the end of the day, pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered.
And it doesn't even have to be somebody better than you. It could be you can give to somebody. I said, but you can give to somebody that doesn't know anything. Well, guess who they're going to give their first deal to? You.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter who it is, give stuff for free. Insurance agent, attorney, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Insert whoever it is, always give tip people 100% every time you go to dinner. It just creates that within you to where you're always putting out into the world, you're going to get it back tenfold.
Yeah. You tip 100%.
I tip 100%.
On every dinner?
50 to 100% every meal.
Wow.
You can go into Waffle House and talk to my servers, not just
at
Waffle House, but even
Halls you're tipping 100% on?
Halls I'll probably tip, a couple $100, way more than 20.
Yeah.
It
goes a long way. It definitely does. I definitely see what you're saying.
It's a mindset.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going, but that is one of the best things, is giving. I don't thrive off winning. I thrive off of other people winning.
100%.
So that's how I've been able to build the biggest network.
Damn right.
Yeah.